Again, it is Sports Phone KNBR here on a Tuesday night. John Dickinson with you until about 11 o'clock on this one as the Giants lose to begin this three-game set against the Milwaukee Brewers. 808 KNBR is the number, 415-808-5627. To join the conversation via the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line, you can also give me a call here on Sports Phone KNBR post-Giants game edition as the Giants got a couple of wins in San Diego. It had been 3 of the last 4 in the win column for San Francisco overall, but the off day yesterday and a new series here with just 8 games to go now with this one in the book at Oracle Park this season. And not a lot of hitting for the Giants. Far too often the scenario for them on this season, and really even more so on their home field, although the Giants have been a pretty good home team overall. But just the 4 hits in this ball game tonight. Saw the Brewers jump out to the 2-0 lead top of the first inning with Landon Roop getting the opportunity to start, and it looked like the game might blow up completely in that top of the first inning, but Roop able to get out of it and then pitched pretty well after that, not allowing another run for the remainder of his night in going 5 innings, allowing 5 hits, 2 earned runs with 3 strikeouts, did not allow a walk in this one, and Roop has pitched pretty well overall for the Giants in opportunities out of the bullpen. And so tonight, making his case to maybe be a part of the Giants' rotation into 2025, listening to the guys on the post-game wrap. Landon Roop, I don't know if he projects necessarily to be a starter next year for the Giants or somebody that's going to be a consistent member of the rotation, but I do think, and Dave Fleming mentioned this, that he does project to be somebody that can help the Giants' pitching staff with that great curveball in some role, and he's been up and down at times, but when given opportunities, and I mean up and down between the majors and minors at times, but when given opportunities, he's pitched pretty well. The Giants did answer back in the bottom of the first inning. Matt Chapman continued to stay hot. One of the bright spots for the Giants, Matt Chapman, a 9-game hitting streak, another double, 35th double of the season for Matt Chapman as he drives in a run there in the bottom of the first, and it's 2-1 all the way to the 6th inning, and Landon Roop was out. Tristan Beck in. First pitch of Tristan Beck's night taken over the wall by Garrett Mitchell of the Brewers to make it a 3-2 game. The Giants quickly got that run back, or make it a 3-1 game. The Giants quickly got that run back in the bottom of the 6th as Yastrzemski went deep down the right field line, 3-2, and then the Giants with not much offense. That was their 3rd hit. They would end up with only 1 more hit for the game in the remainder of the 6th inning, and that didn't come until the leadoff spot in the bottom of the 9th, where there was the infield hit from Elliot Ramos, but he ultimately would be stranded to end the game as the Brewers and Williams, the closer, able to get the win or get the save, and the Brewers get the win by that final of 3-2. So 808 KNBR if you want to react to this one as the Giants lose the series opener to the Milwaukee Brewers, Blake Snell and Colin Ray tomorrow night as the Giants continue to play out the string and continue to kind of look toward 2025 and who fits and who doesn't. And obviously we know Matt Chapman's going to be a big part of that equation with the contract extension that he signed last week. Where does Landon Roop fit into that conversation? Of course, we know Elliot Ramos and Tyler Fitzgerald have made their plans. Giants put the ball in play tonight. Only 6 strikeouts. The unfortunate thing is Michael Conforto with 4 of the 6 strikeouts on the night. Fitzgerald and McCray, the other 2. And as you just kind of look up and down again, and it is the nightly focus on who fits into the plans and how for next year, who doesn't. Another night where Michael Conforto has had a moment here and a moment there. For the most part, though, wow, the 2 Michael Conforto Giants years have just been disappointing, and obviously he will be somebody that won't, in all likelihood, be a part of the Giants' 2025 plans. And with Elliot Ramos penciling to be the left fielder and Jung-Hoo Lee coming back to play center field, that leaves one of a few open spots around the diamond as far as the Giants' projected roster to next year that are open, and there are quite a few. Obviously, we've talked a lot about shortstop and second base. What are they going to do in the corner? Do they look to make an upgrade at first base? The DH, since they traded Jorge Soler, has been something that's kind of rotated between many of the everyday players and or bench and platoon players. How do the Giants look to fill that void? But we still are talking about 3 to 4 spots of the 9 everyday hitters that do need to be upgraded between this year and next. And that, I think, is even with Jung-Hoo Lee coming back to pencil himself into near the top of the lineup, and also somebody that is going to be playing in center field. So we can get into the Giants conversation. There was another big story, John Shea of the Chronicle, with this, and this broke in the afternoon, and it relates to Farhan Zaidi in his 6th year as the Giants' president of baseball operations. And it goes to something that's been discussed a lot in times that I've been on the air at different points here on the Sports Leader, and it's the question as to the status of the contract of Farhan Zaidi, and Bob Melvin also included in this, although I had not necessarily questioned the years remaining. And did Bob Melvin get a 2-year deal with a third-year option? Did he get a 3-year deal straight? But there was this question of Farhan Zaidi when he got the extension, had the year left on his deal for this year, and got the extension to match Melvin's. And Shea, for the Chronicle, wrote about the fact that the Giants did not announce specifics when the deals were announced, going back to last year, the extension, and obviously the hiring of Bob Melvin to be the manager of the Giants. But Shea, through his reporting and citing sources, now Zaidi only guaranteed through 2025. So it was a year added on, a guaranteed year added on, and then what amounts to an option year. And also, John Shea reporting that Melvin essentially had a 2-year deal, 2024 and 25, plus what amounts to an option for 2026. So aligned, but aligned in terms of 2 guaranteed years at the beginning of this season, with essentially option years for 2026. And that sets up some decisions for the Giants ownership group and the Giants board, basically, of directors, as to whether or not they are going to allow Farhan Zaidi to enter what would be basically a lame duck year to try and get his option picked up. I think Melvin is less a part of this than Farhan, just only if the Giants do move on from Farhan and Bob Melvin remains as manager, which I would absolutely – I mean, I don't think there's a scenario where Bob Melvin isn't the manager next year, even if the Giants look to make a move at the president of baseball operations. But it could, should they look to move off Farhan Zaidi, put Melvin in a spot where he's almost in the last guaranteed year of his deal, lame duck year, if you want to say for him. It would certainly be for Farhan, potentially, if that option for 26 isn't picked up, and obviously, why would it be? I mean, and that's a no-brainer. I think the concern was, did the Giants actually have 2 guaranteed years remaining after this one on Farhan? And I think that would have put things in a position where, okay, I could see the Giants maybe being more inclined, if there are 2 years left on the deal, to allow for Farhan to have 2025, because you don't necessarily want to pay somebody to go away with 2 years remaining on the deal. If it's only 1, I do think that changes the conversation. And again, even if changes were to be made, according to that reporting of Shea, Farhan would still get paid for 2025, even if he's replaced, but not 25 and 26. And so it would be a scenario where, again, if there would have to be some legitimate winning and production and many tangible future, direction and players and all of that on this team for Farhan to be able to keep the gig, basically, beyond 2025. So it sets up some potential lame duck years. And do you want to have lame duck years? And how do you weigh that if you're the Giants ownership group versus a clean slate? But then if you have a clean slate, do you keep Bob Melvin? Again, I think you can make the case that neither Zaidi or Melvin, if we're working under the knowledge of John Shea's reporting, neither, in my opinion, would have earned the 2026 option being picked up. I think you could do it for Melvin because I just think he's that good of a manager with that much of a history as being a good manager. But again, Zaidi, no way you would be looking to pick up the 2026 option without allowing for 2025 to play out. So add that, which I think is a significant amount of news pregame today, and really probably more significant news than really anything we saw tonight over at Oracle Park on the diamond for the Giants. But we can react to all of it. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627 to join the conversation there. And wouldn't you know, that was something that I had questioned all year long. And at different points, I think I'd even said, I'll bet you Farhan isn't guaranteed in 2026. And John Shea did the digging, and sure enough, it's not actually the case, which gives the Giants a little more flexibility if they were looking to pivot here amid some of the quiet surrounding the future of the Giants' president of baseball operations beyond the 3 weeks that are currently remaining in this 2024 season. So we can open up the phone lines on that, 808 KNBR. We can also get into a little bit of a conversation about the 49ers, heavy 49er day in the Bay. I'll give you my thoughts coming up here as well on the 49ers season opening victory against the Jets and what lies ahead for them as they take on the Vikings coming up in Minneapolis on Sunday. So we'll go ahead and pause here. A couple of lines open. We'll get to the text line. It is John Dickinson here on Sports Phone KNBR post-Giants game edition as the Brewers beat the Giants tonight 3-2 the final. And you heard it all right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
what you've seen?
Much better here recently. It was, walks early on and getting behind in counts and not really throwing his fastball for strikes. So here recently he's been doing that, which keeps everybody off his off-speed stuff. Throwing some change-ups, some harder breaking balls too, but, when earlier on it was mostly curveballs, which was his pitch, whether for strike or chase, and had trouble throwing fastballs for strikes. Now he's doing both. He has the repertoire. He's been a starter before. I mean, we like him both ways, but good to see him stretched out some and give us 5 innings and certainly keep us in a game.
This is where we feed the faithful. Sports Phone, KNBR. Streaming live at twitch.tv/The Sports Leader.
All right, Bob Melvin there talking about Landon Roop as the Giants lose to the Brewers 3-2, the final over at Oracle Park tonight. Looking at the attendance numbers, 25,096. The attendance in a quick game tonight, 2 hours and 7 minutes. It's John Dickinson back here on Sports Phone KNBR on this Tuesday night. Landon Roop locating the fastball better, able to throw it for strikes, mixing it up a little bit more with the changeup, and obviously he has the great curveball, but maybe had the potential to, or the propensity rather, to get a little bit predictable at different points and then unable to locate some of the other pitches like the fastball, as Bob Melvin alluded to, and then guys maybe sitting on the curveball a little bit. But all in all, nice start for Landon Roop, going 5 innings and allowing just the 2 runs. Got off to a tough one early as Churio with the double for the Brewers to lead off the game, but then he was able to get Garrett Mitchell. Contreras with the single that scored Churio. Looked like maybe he'd get out of the inning, but after Bowers had singled to send Contreras to third, Adames then singled to left field as well. So it was 2-0. Giants got the run back there, one of the 2 in the bottom half, and it would be 2-1 all the way to the 6th when Mitchell would make it 3-1, Yastrzemski 3-2, and then the Giants with nothing doing in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, although they did make it interesting again in the final game in the City Connect jerseys, the City Connect era, at least with the creamsicle jerseys, going back to 2021 and all the magic in particular that year. But really, it was a lot of magic in 22 and in 23 with the Giants in those City Connect jerseys. They will end up 30-16 tonight, the last night of the creamsicles, as the run ends 30-16 in the 4 seasons going back to 2021, and the 46 times that the Giants wore those on Tuesday nights, the City Connect Tuesdays. So a good run there for San Francisco. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. We'll get to the phones in just a second. 831 on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. JD, it's not a tough loss when you only get 4 hits. Well, I would beg to differ with that. I mean, you only get 4 hits, that makes it tough, because if you'd got 6 or 7, you might have won a game that you lost by a single run. And 1-run games have been the order for the Giants, as they have now dropped 5 of their last 6 home games, going back to August 31st. And the series opener against the Marlins, they won that one, then dropped the final 2, then the 2 of 3 to the Diamondbacks. And now the Giants lose the opener of this one against the Brewers, and they have played a lot of 1-run games going back to August 9th, and that was, the weekend that they were at home coming off of that Cincinnati-Washington trip, and against the Tigers in that series before the big showdown series against the Braves, and they lost some 1-run games in that series as well. But the Giants, 13 1-run games since that weekend against the Tigers, 5-8, which is the most games overall, the 13 most in the majors over that span, and the 5-8 record in those games telling a big part of the story as to why the Giants find themselves in the position that they are in, which is currently playing out the string here and looking at the updated standings in the National League wildcard race. Still not mathematically eliminated are the Giants, but with the loss here dipping their record to 71-74, They are 8 games back now of both the Mets and the Braves, who are in a flat-footed 79-66 tie at the close of business for that third and final wildcard spot in the National League. All right, let's get to the phones. 808 KNBR, Alex in Modesto here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Alex.
Hey, how you doing? You having a good night out there?
Yeah, having a good night. It's tough on a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday night. Everybody's kind of focusing in on football, and rightfully so. And tonight really felt, ninth inning, it got a little exciting, but tonight really felt for the first time. I mean, the Giants have basically been out of it, Alex, for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But tonight was the first time for me watching the game. It really felt like they were out of it, and guys were taking quick swings, and it was almost that, all right, let's get this thing over with 3 weeks to go, which isn't always the best watch or listen, but it's the Giants' plight at this point.
Well, we really don't like mediocrity in the Bay. Like, we like when we go towards, better things, when we're building. When we're not good, we like when we're, going for the first overall pick, a la Nick Bosa, 49ers. I think a lot of people are just excited for 49er football because it's the last, since 2019, it's just been winning, and we like winning. We're used to it here in the Bay. And,
no doubt.
Hey, what was the record for the City Connects for the Giants? You when I called in, you were talking about that.
Yeah, 30-16 over 4 years, and I was looking at the numbers. Yeah, they had a good run. A lot of it was the last 3 years. I was looking in the game notes here. It wasn't quite as good this year, but 30-16 with the loss tonight. 4-6 this season with the loss tonight. They ended up losing 4 of the last 5, including tonight in the City Connects. But overall, rousing success in the City Connects, Alex.
Yeah, they were ugly, though. They were ugly. Like, I don't know. No one liked the fog. There was a lot of jokes about it. I'm not going to say it on here. I was screaming from the high heavens that they should have been pinstripe, orange pinstripe, and they should have spelled out Giants over the front. But that's for the designers. Just my observation, though, the Brewers, I feel like the Brewers were the team that we all wish we could see the Giants built after. They're fast, they hit, they're young, their pitching's great, I believe. It was better when they had Burns, but yeah, I admire the Brewers, seeing them play in our ballpark. I wish that our team was built like that. Churio is the man.
Yes, he is, and that's the thing. I mean, what you need, and what there hasn't been enough of, Alex, is the guy who comes up and look, maybe Bryce Eldridge is going to wind up being
Bryce
that
Eldridge.
guy.
It is him.
But it's the guy that comes up at 20 and he's just awesome at 20, 21. Now look, no shade at Elliot Ramos, who's 24, just turned 25 a couple of days ago, but it's the guy who comes up that's billed as the guy, and he comes up and he's super young and he's just awesome, right? And so it's that guy, and until you have that guy, you're always kind of searching for who that guy's going to be. And you're right, it does at this point look like Eldridge is the best shot at the Giants having that guy.
Definitely seeing the next guy hitting 30 home runs in a season for the Giants. Definitely will be him or Ramos, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. Alex, anything else?
Just go Niners. It's Giants, RIP, it's been a great season. I love the City Connects. Well, I love the idea. I love them because when they were introduced as 2021, it was a great time, Coming back from COVID, we were hitting, just traded for Chris Bryant.
Everybody hated him, Alex. Everybody hated him then for the same reasons you laid out, but then it became a thing because they were winning every night, and they were winning every night specifically in them, and they had all these wild games. They'd come back. It seemed like the wildest games they had were those Tuesday nights where they were wearing those jerseys. So
the person I remember the most was Cobb. Alex Cobb with his pants blown in the wind with those City Connects.
Yeah, and I feel like Lamont Wade had a bunch of his big moments in those too. A lot of the late night Lamont feels like was him doing stuff in those, and Yaz coming up with big hits in the City Connect. But yeah, that was a hell of a year. And look, the City Connect the concept, as you mentioned, is not going away. They're just going to have a different design for next year. So maybe I can put you in contact with the designers, and we can get a word over there to what the people would like to see for next year.
Pinstripes. That's all we need. They're beautiful.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.
Yeah, man. You too, bro. Alex and Modesto checking in. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. John Dickinson here on a Tuesday night. Giants lose to the Brew Crew 3-2 the final. But, the City Connects go out with a loss, and 4 of the last 5 in the loss column for the Giants at home on Tuesday in the City Connect jerseys, and 4-6 this season. So their record dipped a little bit this year compared to the other years. And so, you look at it, I mean, they were, 26-10 in those jerseys coming into this season. And I think it was time. It's time for a little new design, a little fresh look, less see-through, I think is always good. That was one of the issues with those jerseys early in the year, as was the case with a lot of the Nike designed jerseys this year across the majors, is that they were just a little too thin, a little too revealing. But they got that all ironed out early for next year and making some changes, and rightfully so. So we'll see what the Giant City Connect jerseys look like next year. I mean, they already have Orange Friday, and they already wear the black jerseys a lot on Saturday nights. And then you've got the cream, obviously, as the primary. It's interesting when you look at what you would try to potentially bring back or implement as a City Connect type of a jersey. I wonder where you go, if because the Giants have such classic uniforms, and then over the years it's been add the Orange Friday, which I think made a lot of sense. That went back, I think, to 2010. I want to say was the first year they did that, 2009, 2010, somewhere in that range, and that's been a hit. And then, I do think every team, although they shouldn't necessarily wear them all the time, I do think every team should have a black top that maybe they can wear once in a while. And, of course, you're going to wear the road grays. But then you got to figure out what the next domino to fall in the grand scheme of that is. We got the great Raph Corral back in our San Francisco studios. Raph, you got any thoughts before we get back to the game a little bit on how what City Connect jersey would you like to see?
I really like the pinstripe idea. I thought that was pretty cool. It's something new. We don't have to do it. But, I also like the late 80s, early 90s black jersey.
Late 80s, early 90s black jersey.
It was very plain, but that's what I just like, the simplicity of it.
Like the spring training jersey?
Yeah, sort of. It just make it simple like that.
I can't remember. I'm not, and obviously we were kids at the time, but I don't remember that. I kind of like the SF on.
Yeah, that's cool. I dig that
on
one.
The chest. Too. I kind of like the SF on the left side. That could be a good one. Although again, that was that was an away look as opposed to a home look. Maybe you go back to that 90s style Giants across the front with the big G and the big S. Would anybody want to see that?
That one I like.
Yeah, that late 80s. That brings up some of that late 80s, early 90s. Nostalgia.
Yeah, I just remember the Will Clark one where it was just black and it just had like white Giants, just lettering in front, and it was just very simple.
Yeah, I remember like the 70s, 80s script. So I think you're thinking a little bit earlier. I know where you're going. You're going with the Giants, like the Giants script writing across the front, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's something. Yeah. Maybe you could just do a Tuesday, throwback, where they just wear a throwback on Tuesdays or something. I don't know.
It could be. Yeah, that could work. So, yeah, although I think they try to keep the City Connects, I think they try to keep those a little bit more modern and forward-thinking as opposed to being a straight-up throwback. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627, 650. I would go gray jersey with the orange script with no black borders, just orange, and have it in the vintage New York font. Okay. 650 saying, I think Kanto said black or dark on the post game. Well, maybe a little inside info.
I like 415's suggestion. Go with Niner colors.
Go with Niner colors. Everybody loves a winner. It's worked for them. Well, they are giving away the hat, right? Although that's in Giant. That's Niner colors, but it's a Giants hat, right? On Saturday over the weekend when the Giants go at it against the Padres. Again, of course, we'll have that for you here on the Sports Leader. 408, getting it back to baseball here on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. Why do they keep playing Yaz and Conforto? You already know what you got from them. Play the kids. Play the kids. Yeah, I mean, I do think there comes a point where, and a lot of teams wait until they're like mathematically eliminated to truly do that. Even 8 games out, you're not going to be mathematically eliminated probably for another week and a half. So I can understand where, fans are like, hey, give Matos a shot, give Encarnacion a shot. I mean, those guys have basically been used as platoon guys for the most part in the time that they've been up, or Sunday afternoon, day game after night game players. So I can see where maybe less Canna at this point, maybe even less Wade at this point, less Conforto. Yaz has still been, Giants fans aren't going to like this, but I mean, Yaz has still been a productive player in many ways. Although, again, I think he's kind of the quintessential. He's a guy you like having around, but he's also indicative of the fact that you really, 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 really need to get better. And so as much as you like him, if you can't keep everybody. Like you can't look around and go, well, you like Yaz and you like Wisely and you like this. Like you can't, and you want McCray to play, and then it's like, well, where are you going to actually improve the roster next year? Like somebody's got to go in an attempt to open up some spots for some of the new players to be able to come in. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627 as the Brewers beat the Giants tonight 3-2 the final over at Oracle Park as the Giants dropped to 71-74 with a couple of games to go here in this series, and just 8 home games to go overall. The 2 against the Brewers, 3 against the Padres, and then the 3 the final weekend of the season against the St. Louis Cardinals, and then that'll be that. If you want to weigh in also on the news of the afternoon, John Shea, the Chronicle, I thought, again, this was interesting and not unexpected. I had mentioned this a bunch of different times over the course of the year. I did not believe that Farhan Zaidi had a fully guaranteed 2026 year on his deal. That just never seemed right. I can understand why you would give him an extension for a year, meaning adding 2025, and I can understand where maybe it's a mutual and or a team option for 2026. But that never added up in my mind that was actually the case. It sort of became accepted as the case. And the contracts obviously do, I think, technically run through 2026, but with options for 2026. The guaranteed portion, meaning Bob Melvin basically, according to Shea, on a 2-year deal plus a team option, or what amounts to a team option for 2026. And then Farhan had 1 year added to his deal, which is 2025. He already had 24 on the deal. They didn't want him to be a lame duck in the final year of his deal. In Melvin's first year of at least a 2-year deal, I'm actually surprised Melvin didn't get a 3-year guaranteed deal. That surprises me less so than the fact that Farhan's not guaranteed for 2026. But I am a little surprised that Bob Melvin didn't get a guaranteed third year in his deal. But again, I sort of make the separation between the two because I think Melvin and Zaidi are in different boats as far as I'm concerned. Like I think the Giants could look to move on from Farhan and be totally comfortable in having Bob Melvin be their manager, even with a new president of baseball operations and a new front office put in play. Like I don't think that would necessarily be an issue, although again, it may be an issue for that executive. And I think it could become an issue as far as, if the Giants do look to make a change, does that executive want his own people potentially from the jump? I mean, all of those things would have to be factored in. But the key takeaway is, per the John Shea reporting, and I'm adding my opinion to that, the key takeaway is if Melvin and Farhan Zaidi are only guaranteed through 2025, it makes it a lot easier if you're the Giants to pivot off of one or both. And again, I'm more focused on Farhan than Melvin, but one or both, with you only having to pay out the 1 year as opposed to two. Two gets a little pricey, and I understand where organizations don't want to do that. And I think that was where a lot of people were at in terms of the belief that, well, if he's got 2 years left on the deal, you're not going to let him go and pay 2 years on the deal and bring in an entirely new crew and run it that way. But if it's only one, a lot of organizations will pay one and make the move. And, maybe they make the move. And again, I just cannot see Bob Melvin not here next year. That part I almost don't think is up for debate. And again, I've said this a bunch of different times. I think Bob Melvin could manage for any general manager or president of baseball operations in the game. Now, A.J. Preller may be on the phone and disagree with me on that, but I don't think the issue is Bob Melvin. But interesting news there from John Shea. I do think it gives the Giants a little bit more of a window if they do want to pivot off of Farhan here in these final 3 weeks. But Farhan's making his case in terms of the young players, at least trying to, as far as their impact. All right, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. We'll go ahead and pause here. We'll reset the ball game tonight, and we'll also get into a little bit on the 49ers. If you want to talk about the 49ers and their season-opening win against the Jets last night at Levi Stadium and the Christian McCaffrey injury or the emergence of Jordan Mason in his stead, we can do that. I think you can make the case nobody among the top contenders in the NFL looked better than the 49ers did in Week 1, certainly the NFC. So we'll pause here. We'll come back. 808 KNBR. It's John Dickinson. Giants lose to the Brewers 3-2, and you heard it all right here on the Sports Leader.
Left-handed batter facing Savali. Now he drives one deep into right field, down the line, way back there. Goodbye! Right down the line, over the Willie Mays wall, and into the bleachers. And Yaz makes it a one-run game again. 3-2, Milwaukee.
Dub Nation, dial the digits and dive in. 415-808-KNBR. Sports Phone KNBR continues right here and on the all-new KNBR app.
Home run number 14 for Mike Yastrzemski. That in the bottom of the sixth inning. John Miller on the call. 3-2 at that point, and the Giants would not have another hit until the last of the ninth inning, when Elliot Ramos led off with an infield hit. He would be stranded at second. Giants lose to the Brew Crew. 3-2 the final. John Dickinson back here on Sports Phone KNBR here on a Tuesday night. 808 KNBR. The people want to move off of Yaz. He's got 14 home runs. He had a homer tonight. But I actually understand the sentiment when you are all but out of it at this point. 3 under 500, 8 back of the final wild card, and at least attempting to say that you're leaning in on playing a lot of the young guys. But you run through the Giants lineup tonight, and Yastrzemski, a trusted veteran in that leadoff spot, he goes deep. Elliot Ramos, obviously, you want to have out there every night. Conforto, 4 ABs, and he takes the sombrero tonight. 4 strikeouts, 4 of the 6 Giant strikeouts on the night. Matt Chapman's going to be in there as the $151 million man and a guy who plays every single night. I think the case to be made is Yastrzemski and Wade specifically right now among the players that are everyday players, at least against right-handed pitching, where you could say, all right, time to go young. And is it Luis Matos, who is currently a member of the 28-man roster? Is it Gerard Encarnacion, who is currently a member of the 28-man roster? That you want to figure out a way to maybe get both of those guys in the lineup some way, somehow. And so I think that's fair with 3 weeks to go. It's fair with 3 weeks to go to say, all right, going to play the young guys, and this means righty, lefty, doesn't matter, give them an opportunity. But with the way that the roster is now, you still... And it's not like, all right, you can bring up 30, 33, 38, all the way up to 40 like it used to be in September. And so you would have, big chunks of the roster that basically wouldn't be playing. And young guys would be taking spots, but veteran guys would be there. But now it's like, well, you only have 28. So you do have a couple of more spots, and the Giants have filled those spots with younger players. But then it just becomes a matter of, with the way the roster is constructed now, you're basically just telling the young guys that you're telling the older guys that they're just done. And I don't know. I mean, guys are still trying to get numbers and things like that. Like that's not, in my mind, as much of a no-brainer as it used to be in terms of just shut them all down and on to next year. But I'm kind of with the people that are saying with 3 weeks to go. And again, I said it earlier. Tonight was the first night for me, and I declared the Giants done back on the 23rd of August when they blew the 5-0 lead in Seattle in that game. And they lost late, and the Niner game was going on. They ended up losing 2 out of 3. That was the game right after they lost to the White Sox and couldn't sweep that series. And I don't know, they were 7 out at that point, something like that. They've really only lost a game in the standings, I guess, since then. But that was the night for me. So they've basically been out of it for like 2.5 weeks. But tonight was the first night where I don't know what it was, whether it was being at Levi's last night for the Niners and Jets, whether it was the off day, and now it truly really starting to feel like September, where it's starting to get darker a little bit earlier, or all of the quick early swing. Like tonight really felt like, oh, wow, these guys are playing out the string. These guys, like tonight felt like September, you're out of the race, and you're just trying to get to the finish line. And so once you reach that point, I think, all right, yeah, play the young guys. Just let Matos play every game for 3 weeks. Let Encarnacion play just about every game for the last 3. I get it. I understand that. But I also think, as much as you might want to do that and evaluate what you have, I do think, and this relates back to the reporting of John Shea and the fact that Farhan Zaidi does not have 2026 guaranteed to him, I do think there's a difference between finishing strong, whatever that may be, for the Giants, and having this thing completely get off the rails to where, you look at where they are right now with, 17 games to go, and you don't want this thing to turn into like a 5-12 kind of a finish where you end up winning 76 games, and it looks like the worst year you've had since your first year. Like that's the kind of thing, and then you look up and it's like, oh, and September was bad, and oh, it was really bad since that Braves series, and in the middle of August, and the last 6.5 weeks are bad. Like, that's the point at which I still think all of these things are being evaluated. And so you don't, if you're Farhan, you don't want to look up and have it, oh, you went 4-13 in your last 17. So I think they are trying as much as they can to still win enough to where it doesn't look like the thing completely went off the rails, right? Where you can step up at a press conference a day after the season ends and say, oh, well, we were only 6 games out or 5 games out, and a couple of things go right, and the pitching, never been like you are kind of trying to sell how close you were to being good, even though I think everybody can understand that this team was very far away from being good and from being a legitimate contender. I think that was apparent even when the illusion was created that they were a contender back a month or so ago as they led into that series against the Atlanta Braves. So the Braves won the first 3 and basically ended the Giants' season for all intents and purposes there. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Feel free to jump in and join the conversation if you want to talk about Farhan's future with the new news from John Shea, the Chronicle. We will also get into some 49ers conversation as well, as they got a big Week 1 win over the Jets. 808 KNBR. To discuss that, I'll give you my thoughts on the Niners coming back as well, as it is Sports Phone KNBR here on a Tuesday night. It's John Dickinson with you until 11 on the Sports Leader.
J.P. Mason down the right sideline, gets banged out of bounds, but he's inside the Jet 30-yard line. What a run by J.P. Mason, having by far his best game in the NFL, taking that handoff, Tim, and getting around the right edge, turning the corner, and turning on the Jets against the Jets.
Vision, burst, and power, and gets right down the sideline, and again, got up on the safety. Tony Adams had a chance to tackle him. J.P. Mason shakes it off and takes this thing down to the 26-yard line.
His longest run of the night, a 24-yarder for J.P. Mason. What a game he is having now. 26 carries for a career-high 139 yards. The carries a career high, and the yardage now.
The nighttime is the right time for Sports Phone KNBR. Let's go on the Sports Leader. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, welcome back. John Dickinson with you here, 808 KNBR. What a night last night out at Levi's for Jordan Mason. 28 carries, 147 yards, a touchdown. He had a catch as well to get him over 150 on 29 touches. Niners beat the Jets 32-19. Back here on KNBR. Post-Giants game edition of Sports Phone KNBR, 808 KNBR, if you want to join the conversation. Talk some Giants, talk some Niners, whatever the heck you want to do. And before I'll give you my thoughts on the Niner victory over the Jets and where things stand here. It is a quick turnaround, short week. Niners are back at practice tomorrow and Thursday and Friday, and then they're flying to Minneapolis, and it is a early morning game, 10 a.m. out here on the West Coast. One of just two 10 a.m. games for the Niners on the schedule this season. I do want to give everybody a shout here on the YouTube chat tonight. Appreciate SG Sports Talk channel. Hi, JD. Hi to you. Rick Lemke. How many years? They still have to pay Kapler. I think one more year. Sports Talk channel. How are you, JD? JD Boots on the ground. Lovely's fan, I take Yaz over Matos. Bye-bye Wade. Interesting. Yeah, they've got some questions as far as what the Giants are going to do at different points this offseason. To me, it's you got to upgrade first base. You got to upgrade one of the middle infield spots. And then, to me, you also have to look to upgrade right field because Jung Hoo Lee and Elliot Ramos project to be in the other spots. J49 quickly on the Giants. What identity do the Giants have? Home run hitters or small ball? I mean, they're really. I think they've been neither. I think when the Giants click, they hit the long ball, but they hit the long ball more on the road than they do at home. I know John Miller had the note 95 home runs for the Giants on the road, only 59 at home. Even though overall they've been a better team at home than they've been on the road, like it's incongruent. It just a lot of it doesn't add up for this team. To the eye test, I think they've been worse than their record. Greg Dayton, 23 one-run losses in the YouTube chat. So thanks to everybody on YouTube and Twitch. I know I apologize to the people. I do a much better job during the Warriors season and the Dubs OT shows, and man, the Dubs are right around the corner. And we're going to have a potential major announcement here as far as some of our Dubs coverage. For KNBR coming up in the next couple of weeks, so really looking forward to that. And but we're all in on the Niners right now, and rightfully so, because the Niners got a blowout win over the Jets last night at Levi's, 32-19. And what a night from Jordan Mason. He's kind of the big takeaway number one as far as that game. And in for Christian McCaffrey. And look, there were varying degrees of surprise at the fact that Christian McCaffrey did not play. And I know that became kind of a kerfuffle in the media with Jordan Mason after the game, and him telling Lisa Salters on the ESPN and ABC broadcast that he was told on Friday that he was going to start. And then it was apparent, it seemed like somebody got to Mason, and the Niners obviously didn't want it to seem as if it had been planned out that Mason was going to start on Friday. And Kyle Shanahan's like, no. That was, he may have thought that, but Bobby Turner may have told him that, the running backs coach, to kind of get him pumped up that he was going to get more work. And so Kyle kind of differentiated from what Mason had told Lisa Salter. So either Mason got a little bit over his skis, or he was being real honest, and what was a great moment for him. I mean, imagine it for Jordan Mason. I mean, a guy who I think everybody in the Niner locker room knew over the last couple of years had the talent to produce at the level that he did in that game. And then he's on ESPN and ABC, the first Monday night game of the year, the best player on the field. And it, it was a fair and good question by Lisa Salters. And he's honest, because nobody wants to lie or think it's a big deal. And he's Tuesday, it's old Friday, and then that makes everybody think that maybe the Niners are doing something to cover up what was going on with Christian McCaffrey's injury, which I don't really think the Niners were doing anything to cover up what was going on with Christian McCaffrey's injury. I think that's kind of the other, like all in all, that to me is much ado about nothing, in a lot of ways, but. Again, McCaffrey had told the media Friday that he was going to play. And then when Kyle Shanahan on Saturday had said, no, he's questionable, and then there was a follow-up question about, questionable, but like leaning toward playing, and Kyle Shanahan said, no, questionable, like questionable. That was the first moment where I was like, oh, maybe there is something a little bit more going on with Christian McCaffrey and this calf/Achilles, which is now Achilles tendonitis that flares up. According to Kyle Shanahan today on the conference call with reporters, it flares up, and then it goes away, and then it comes back. Either way, it's not a good situation. And Adam Schefter of ESPN is saying that McCaffrey's not going to play next week in Minnesota, which, again, I would fully understand if the Niners didn't want to play him next week in Minnesota, didn't want to play him next week after that at L.A., because you're playing on the turf in both of those stadiums, and that can be harder on players who have calf/Achilles/knee injuries, right? You're more apt to get a weird, awkward cut and wind up having an injury on the turf. So and the Niners have had some bad history of players having season-ending injuries on the turf. So the next two games are on the turf. So I can understand where the Niners would maybe not play McCaffrey, especially with Jordan Mason playing as well as they did. So much ado about nothing, I felt in that. But I do think it was unfortunate that Mason goes out and he's honest, and then he gets asked about it. I really don't think anybody was doing anything wrong. Like, I don't think Mason did anything wrong. Maybe you could make the case Kyle Shanahan did in terms of, really overly specifying, no, I didn't tell him till today, meaning yesterday, Monday, that he was going to be starting. I think the Niners were maybe a little bit overly concerned that there was going to be some kind of investigation, as if they were misleading people on Christian McCaffrey's injury, which I don't think they were doing. I just think that this calf/Achilles thing is something that you don't want to mess with. So, again, I don't think anybody really did anything wrong, but I think it was unfortunate that it kind of turned into a thing where Mason said one thing and then Shanahan said another thing, and then Mason had to speak to it again, and maybe somebody had gotten to Mason and said, hey, the head coach disagreed with what you said on the ESPN interview, and now you're in the auditorium at Levi Stadium with a bunch of media members, and they're trying to – and it kind of felt like a gotcha thing, when I don't really think it was a gotcha thing. It was just more trying to maybe gain some clarity on it to add to or accurately tell the story as to Jordan Mason's, career night. And honestly, it looks great for Jordan Mason no matter what. It looks even better for Jordan Mason in terms of the story if he was told at 3:00 that, hey, you're going to start. On like 2 hours before the game. Like, that actually kind of looks better for Jordan Mason in a way. So I don't, but then I will also say I think people are obviously first and foremost concerned about Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers' best offensive skill player, and the straw that stirs the drink. And so they're trying to gauge the severity of all of that. So, you add it all up, and it led to what ultimately was an unfortunate, I think, end to what was a great night for Jordan Mason overall. And look, Jordan Mason's going to be somebody that the Niners are going to have to lean on here moving forward if Christian McCaffrey, in fact, is not going to play against the Vikings. And like, count me among those immediately who were telling you flat out, straight up, the fact that Jordan Mason was able to play at the level that he was, and the fact that the Niners were able to win over the Jets, like every game the Niners win at this point without Christian McCaffrey is another week that you give Christian McCaffrey to heal. Like, every win you get is a week almost later toward the urgency of needing to get Christian McCaffrey back on the field. Although, again, depending upon what you believe and what you read, and their differing opinions in the medical field, if you read reports and things from doctors, that once you go down a path of getting the Achilles, it almost becomes, as John Lund has said here on KNBR, it almost becomes like a ticking time bomb, to where you could give a guy a week off and bring him back and he's fully healthy and it goes, or you could give him a month off, or you give him 6 weeks off and come back and it eventually is going to go, as was the case, obviously locally, going back a few years with Kevin Durant and others. So I think everybody is a little sensitive to the whole Achilles thing here in the Bay. And look, I mean, the 49ers need Christian McCaffrey. And, maybe they need him a little bit less in the regular season. But if the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl, they need Christian McCaffrey to be healthy and be a part of it. And so I think, as great as the Niners looked, and we'll get into in the next half hour here how great the Niners looked, as great as they looked, you still need Christian McCaffrey if you want to get to the ultimate goal, which is to win the Super Bowl. So how you feeling about this 49ers team one game in? I think you're feeling a hell of a lot better about them than you did on Labor Day. And we'll get into that conversation next, because I think last night's performance wiped away any and all, really, of what was the kind of meh summer that they had. And we'll get into who played well, who didn't. I've got thoughts on the entire game and all the position groups and all of that here between now and 11 o'clock. If you want to jump in, 808 KNBR. If you want to talk some Giants as they lose to the Brewers 3-2, I'm here for you, and here the next couple of nights on The Sports Leader. So we'll pause here. We'll come back. KNBR 104.5 and 680, The Sports Leader.
I mean, to me, the fear right now is that this is just something that wouldn't go away if he was playing on it now. It would erupt here and there, and it would become problematic instead of just at the beginning of the season. It would be problematic throughout the season. And obviously this is a team that has its eye on January and February, and that's what the priority is.
We want your reaction, so give us a ring or blow up the text line at 415-808-KNBR. This is Sports Phone KNBR, streaming live at twitch.tv/The Sports Leader.
All right, back here on Sports Phone KNBR. John Dickinson with you here on a Tuesday night, 808-KNBR, 415-808-5627. Matt Barrows of The Athletic, who joined Papa and Lund earlier here on The Sports Leader. Talking about Christian McCaffrey. 49ers get the big win over the Jets. Sounds like McCaffrey, his status in limbo for Week 2 at Minnesota, as the 49ers are going to take on the Vikings. Random fact, I mean, I've mentioned this a few times, but the Niners haven't won at Minnesota since 1992. Did a little recon on that. And again, I'm sure you hear a lot about it this week. And I was on hand last year in Minneapolis in October for the Monday night game that the 49ers lost to the Vikings. It was the last Kirk Cousins game before he was injured. And, yeah, the Niners, 7 straight losses at Minnesota dating back to December 13 of 1992. 94, 99 they lost, 03, 09 on the Brett Favre heave to the end zone on the final play of that game. Then they lost there in 2012, even though the 49ers won, 11? I think they were 11-4-1 in 2012, and then dropped the season opener there in 2018, and then lost there last year, a team that went 13-4. So there've been a lot of really good teams, an 11-4-1 team, a 13-4 team, a 13-3 team that won the Super Bowl in 1994 that lost there. Been a lot of really good 49er teams that haven't been able, for whatever reason, to win at the Metrodome and now at U.S. Bank Stadium, where the Vikings currently play, and the Niners 0-2 in that stadium in 2018 and 2023. Back here, final 20 minutes or so, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Give you my thoughts on the game last night. And we were talking about the Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason. I mean, look, the emergence of Jordan Mason is huge for the 49ers in the wake of this Christian McCaffrey injury and kind of the unknown surrounding the Christian McCaffrey injury, which Barrows spoke to with Papa and Lund. But all in all, I thought real quality win for the Niners, considering all the hype around the Jets. I'm not as high on the Jets as others are. I think they're a little overrated. I think Aaron Rodgers is on the downturn. I think they've got a lot of talent, but they can't stop the run. And really the story of this game for the Niners was they stopped the Jets' run, and Rodgers was just kind of sitting back there and surveying. And, at times the Niners got pressure, at times they didn't. But they kind of made the Jets a little one-dimensional, but took the run away and then ran the ball down the Jets' throat. And I thought the Niners, forcing a couple of turnovers. I like the fact that the Niners, after they got down 7-3, there was really one Jets drive that mattered in the whole game, and it was the third possession with the Niners up 3-0. You're kind of wondering how they're going to divvy up the running back carries, and it looked like Debo was going to get a ton of them, although it ended up with 8, and Jordan Mason toted the rock so well that you could just keep giving it to him, and the Niners are blocking. But wow, I mean, how about Dominic Pooney at right guard? Looks like an upgrade. Spent a chunk of the evening with Larry Krueger on Niners Nightly here before the Giants game got rolling, talking about Dominic Pooney. He looks tremendous in his first game. So the Niners are up 3-0. Jets go down, find some spots in the zone. Garrett Wilson kind of gets loose. Big catch over Lenore. and lots of Garrett Wilson with Rodgers, and they weren't really getting pressure. Niners couldn't get off the field on third down. Jets take the 7-3 lead. And you're thinking, all right, the Niners defense at that point looked a little vulnerable. How are the Niners going to respond? They go right back down, and they, score, even though I think they got a little bit cute on the Purd Dog play, the reverse pass where Debo's trying to hit Brock Purdy for a big gain. That was a play that was referenced in the preseason as the Purd Dog play. That was the play that Brock Purdy got all giddy about when he was asked about it in a manner that he probably should have been asked about it at, to be perfectly honest, because it was a play that people had kind of seen at training camp, and you're supposed to, as a media member that's allowed to watch some of those things, you're not supposed to report on specific strategy. You're not supposed to make that public. And then Brock got asked about it in the post-practice presser and was giddy as heck to talk about it. And that play, Purd Dog. And so, again, it was all over the live stream and all that, and so everybody saw it. But the Niners got a little cute in running that play. And so the field goal, they're down 7-6, but then they settled in, and that was the point of the conversation. The Niners settled in. Leonard Floyd with the sack, Bosa's drawing a holding call. Like the defense settled in and settled down after the Jets kind of had their way there in that third possession. The Niners go down, and that's where Mason really on that fourth offensive series established himself. And Brock Purdy hit Juwan Jennings on a 2nd and 19 for a first down. How big was Juwan Jennings? I thought the passing game overall for the Niners was a little bit out of sync, but 5 big catches for Juwan Jennings from Brock Purdy. He made big-time throws when he had to Jennings, and 4 of the 5, including the first 4, led to first downs. First downs, including a 2nd and 19 that went for 22 that picked up a first down. So Juwan Jennings continues to be just somebody that comes up with money catch after money catch. The Debo wide back era was rolling at that point, and the Niners take it in with Debo punching in to make it 13-7. Niners start getting pressure on Rodgers. The coverage is better. And then really where the Niners won the game, and I think a lot of it was about composure, but they get a punt. There's about 5 minutes before halftime. It's a 6-point game, and the Niners wipe out the rest of the first half. 12 plays, 75 yards, a near masterclass from Kyle Shanahan to get into the red zone. Before the drive did stall out, they had to settle for a field goal and left one play for the Jets at the end of the half where they kneeled on it and went in at halftime. But if Brandon Ayuk makes the catch on the dime from Brock Purdy, we're talking about perfection in terms of, really a game management situation that gets away from the Niners a lot. That 5 minutes to go in the half, and he tries to bleed the clock out, but then they try to score, and sometimes they don't leave enough time, even though they're trying to take all the time. And it was almost perfection if Ayuk makes that catch. But the Niners did get the field goal, and I think if there's something to quibble about offensively, it's, the passing game a little out of sync. Ayuk had a couple of drops. He looked rusty. But, settled for field goals as opposed to touchdowns. Those would be some things that I think would factor in. But the Niners are up 16-7 at the half. And then they keep the ball for 7 more minutes and 18 seconds to open the second half. 12 minutes, 32 seconds over 2 possessions, bridging the 2 halves. Green Bay ran one play. The Niners went from a 6-point lead to a 23-7 lead, and they never really looked back. Right after that, Lenore with the PBU tip into the hands of Demetrius Flanagan fouls. Niners are able to kick another field goal on the doink as their offense stalled out, and it was just composure. It was just steady. It wasn't great, albeit it was dominant. And Jordan Mason leading the way. And the 49ers having a little bit of balance in the running game, being able to run right, being able to run left. They did a lot of it yesterday running right. And it was a lot of Dominic Pooney on that side being able to keep Quinnen Williams in check, being able to open up some holes where Mason was able to cut back and pick up some big gains. And, Niners at that point, 26-7 off the field goal doink and never really in danger at that point. So impressive win for San Francisco, and it looks like other than the Christian McCaffrey concerns, which linger as the Niners will be back at practice tomorrow, it appears as if everything's going to be all right. Aaron Banks dealing with a little bit of an injury. Juwan Jennings dealing with a little bit of an injury, but Jennings able to come back. Both of those guys day to day as they head toward practice tomorrow. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Just a real quality win for the 49ers in week one, and I think one that quells a lot of the concerns of the offseason. And look, sometimes the offseason, because it is longer than the actual season, things can seem a lot bigger than they really are until you get that first win. And the Niners got that first win, and I think it relaxes a lot of things. And now we'll see what this team has got against a Vikings team that looked pretty good in a win, albeit against the Giants who stink, and then against the Rams who are now down Puka Nacua, and they are in a spot where the Rams are going to play Arizona, and they had one of the more tough losses. They played a really good game, although I thought they kicked it away with some game management issues from Sean McVay. But they lose to the Lions in a game that I think the Rams should have won. Had they been a little more buttoned up in terms of game management, they should have won, allowed the Lions to hang in, and the Lions ultimately stole it, even though I think the Rams, for the most part, were the better team. So we'll see the Niners and Rams in L.A. coming up here in a couple of weeks. And look, neither one of these next two are going to be a picnic, but I think things relax and the Niners can kind of hone in and focus in here on what lies ahead. So, all right, let's go ahead and pause here, Raph. We'll come back. We'll do a little short one. 808 KNBR if you want to sneak in on the phone lines. We'll get to a couple of texts and the YouTube chat as well, and we'll call it a night here as we get to the 11 o'clock hour on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Up Nation. Dial the digits and dive in. 415-808-KNBR. Sports Phone KNBR continues right here and on the all-new KNBR app.
All right, final couple of minutes. John Dickinson here, Sports Phone KNBR. Midnight replay, just about an hour away. Giants did lose to the Brewers tonight, 3-2. Quick game over at Oracle Park, splitting this Sports Phone KNBR edition with some Giants there the first hour or so, and then the last half hour or so talking a little bit of 49ers. Niners get the big win over the Jets. Monday Night Football at Levi's Stadium last night. A quick turnaround for the Niners as they are back in action Sunday morning at Minnesota. Vikings look good week one against the Giants. That'll be Minnesota's home opener. Obviously the first road game for the Niners and one of two 10 a.m. games, and this one on the short week for San Francisco. Giants back at it tomorrow over at Oracle Park as they will play game two of their three-game series against the Brewers. And the Giants will send Blake Snell to the mound in that one against Colin Ray of the Milwaukee Brewers. And Blake Snell has been tremendous. Hasn't been enough to lead the Giants to the best pitching staff in baseball assertion, as laid out by Farhan Zaidi at the trade deadline, but that should take nothing away from Blake Snell, who's been awesome. And pitcher of the month for August. He's been pretty good even in September. And we'll see if Blake Snell can continue his second half role that really began, 2 months ago on July the 9th after really not providing much for the Giants due to injury and lack of a spring training and all of that through the first half of the season. So Blake Snell on the hill tomorrow, and then I'm going to be back with you tomorrow as well after the Giants and the Brewers. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. We'll be taking your calls, talking some Giants at the end of that one, and the sports news of the day. I'm going to be down in Santa Clara for 49ers practice as well as, again, I mentioned that quick turnaround and everything with Kyle Shanahan meeting with the media again, and we'll see who's in, who's out as far as some of the injuries go for the Niners at practice tomorrow. And if Christian McCaffrey is, in fact, able to participate after being a limited participant a couple of times last week, but now with the indications thinking that the Niners are going to try and keep things a little bit more cautious for Christian McCaffrey as they go from week one to week two. Raph, appreciate you, my man. Thank you for everything tonight, and I guess we're paired together again on Thursday, brother, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, JD, I'll be here Thursday, bright and early, or at least at 5 p.m.
Yeah, well, it's early for you, right?
That's right.
That's early for you, Raph. You're kind of a late riser.
I like sleeping in, so
you like sleeping in. So Raph will be up at about 3:45 in the afternoon, and in by 5, and we'll talk to Raph here on Sports Phone following the night game. 3 night games in this series for the Giants and the Brewers. All right, that'll do it. Thanks to Raph. Thanks to Jordan as well in our San Francisco studios. She was cutting up all the sound tonight. Really appreciate her, and we'll talk to you tomorrow following the Giants and the Brewers right here. KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.